You are welcome in the session that we transmit virtually. We have other sessions held by Knowledge Summit in this edition with many questions about the destiny of humanity and life, and facing the many challenges, either natural or man-made. This session will discuss employees and employment, and how can we look at this way differently, and how can we reinvent them under the changes of the era, employment and jobs, how they are affected by technology and the new patterns. What is the mechanism of protecting individuals and their rights, and how the new generation deal with this matter and how it looks at it. And we talk about the many conditions also. At the beginning, allow me to welcome this session Ms. Dima Najim, the Managing Director of Education for Employment in the United Arab Emirates. Ms. Dima has a remote experience and skills for more than 15 years. She took over many positions in civil organizations in the Middle East and North Africa, and she is a member of the Foundation for Employment in the UAE. She was the director of the operations in the SMEs and in Iraq also and North Africa, and she is a member of the Gulf program for the Foundation Bank. She has a BA in economy from Damascus University, and she is one of the academic Arabics. And for the you are welcome, Ms. Dima. You are welcome. Thank you, Ms. Safia, for this introduction, and thanks are extended for the Mohammed bin Rashid Foundation, and thank you for the host. Ms. Dima, of course, at the beginning of the session, there are many discussions and debates that around the challenges. What are the most challenges that arouse worry and that you see that we should look at them carefully?
مثل الوظائف والتوظيف.
The challenges, thank you for this question. About the future is not clear yet about challenges. The life continues, the type of business will continue. It keeps changing. Change is a constant thing. Everything changes except change. This pandemic is very quick. It changed us all. The COVID-19 pandemic really created lots of changes and accelerated change. We know that changes will take place again, maybe in 2030 or with the COVID-19, there was acceleration for business change. Therefore, there is transformation in work, remote work, business from home. We did not note this before. So there is a great transformation. And we have also a retirement. Many CEOs retired in USA. And there's also digitalization, or the digital transformation also has been accelerated as well. And this will continue also. If we go back in history to the 18th and 19th century, we will see that we have the Industrial Revolution 1, the first industrial revolution, which had impact and ramifications in agriculture. And thousands of workers in agriculture to move to the industrialization. And those who were able to get trained to be transformed into industry to manufacture equipment, at that time, for example, on steam engine, they were able to get new jobs and new businesses. There were lots of losses of jobs. And new jobs were created due to the first industrial revolution. With this, we have the second industrial revolution at the end of the 19th century. We have the engine has become electric. The steam engine has become electric. And this also caused loss of jobs and had impact on business. Therefore, some workers were retrained to be transferred from steam engine to electric engine. So there were new jobs and some people lost their jobs. This development and this industrial revolution too created more businesses, or what we have mass production. More jobs also were created due to that. And within less than 100 years, we are now facing the third industrial revolution, which is the digital revolution. This digital revolution, again, caused lots of jobs, and it had impact on our market. You have to deal with the computer and online and with internet. This is really a must. This is what we witnessed in the third industrial revolution. And now we are gearing or heading towards the fourth industrial revolution. We don't have the time as like before to be prepared for the fourth industrial revolution in business. It will have impact on our jobs, and many people also will lose jobs. And some jobs will be created as well. What are the mechanisms and tools and how we can be prepared? How can we respond to the new industrial revolution, the fourth one? The change is coming. It's inevitable. Change must happen. Everything changes except change. Change is a constant thing. We have robotics, and robots will replace some people and human beings. We learned from industrial revolutions that there are skills that need to be upgraded, reskills and upskilling and reskilling. In brief, this is history proved that there will be new jobs, and we will be prepared and to invest to be prepared for future.
نعم.
Of course, in the previous revolutions, particularly at the era of machinery and as part of the employment context, there were indications for the craftsmen and the professionals. And in the era of technology, it was intertwined with many sectors for more challenges before people and before companies and different institutions. By talking about this, how these technologies today, intertwined technologies, how they affect the sector of businesses and institutions and human resources, and replacing people by automation instead of these human resources. Always technology affords solutions for business owners, and we do not deny this. Technology presents us a lot of abilities for increasing production, accelerating production also in a low cost, more than human labor. Of course, technology affects on the businesses positively if the industries and businesses go in parallel with these technologies. There is another factor regarding the human resources we should not deny. These technologies solutions can have employment and skills that are not found before. And this is a challenge also for the businesses to look for skills and retain them and the talents also as well. And improve and develop them is one of the most important factors of business success. And at the same time, it is a cost factor. It is worth mentioning that these businesses should qualify and train and develop the skills of the man labor to have the positions instead of looking for new positions. The equation is technology always affords us and presents us good solutions and low costs, but simultaneously the human resources are very important, and they can lead to success or failure of the success if they are not developed properly. Yeah. Of course, Ms. Dima we have started to receive questions from the audience, by the way. And there is a question related to what you have said about the ability of developing the employment skills in certain business in parallel with the restructuring of this company or business under these changes. We have more than training hours, maybe they are prolonged, and they do not think of attracting talents or skills. There's a question also about professionality and the long hours and the budget also. How can this adaptation can happen in this accelerated time? Of course, we should afford good time for training and qualification. This is the responsibility of the business, of course. Companies should have responsibility in training and developing the man labor and the workforce, and this is part of its responsibility towards the society and the country and the economies and the society that it serves, because we are talking about companies that look about the surroundings, including the environment, individuals, and community, not only the profit for the investors. We should look around us. There is a community responsibility for the business and should afford the materialistic resources and the employment who will be able to learn and train new skills and accept new skills and acquire new skills. In addition to that, we, on balance, as we said, there is the attraction of employment and talents, which is costful, and retaining the talents is also costful at the same time to businesses, and changing unemployment every 3 months, for example, is unsuitable under all accounts. The work environment, maybe they have is not suitable or they do not have the good skills and the talents. By this balance, we should have investment and development of the labor work, which is a matter that maybe is more abundant for the companies, more than and much better than changing the employees every certain time. If we look at this matter, the company should also foresee the future according to its sector. We are not talking about the companies, we talk about every employment in the sector. For example, the mechanic, the one who fixes the car engines, for example, which works on diesel or gas or petrol. This mechanic should have look for future to foresee and that the electric cars or the driverless cars should replace the mechanic or the engine cars or the fuel working cars. By looking at this, we infer that he should learn the fixing the engines of the electric cars, which is a new, totally new skill, different from what he knows before. And he must also invest time in this connection. This applies to every profession man works in. For example, the education for employment works in North Africa, and we have around more than 200 trainers working in this organization. These trainers should learn also technologies, how to train and to present the training by conferences and social media, virtually simply. These talents are different from training physically in the same hall. So this is a skill within that, and the trainer should master and train them, and the responsibility also of the organization should present support for the trainers to learn these skills, because it is less costful for the institution to train the trainers than looking for new trainers. On this balance, we find that technology saves efforts and invests in labor work and saves effort also for the company.
Trainers are now learning. They become performers and facilitators and entertainers. So There are lots of technical skills that have been introduced. And on this context, other sectors that have been impacted due to this technology and due to this pandemic, what categories you think they will suffer because of these changes? Of course, there are sectors that will be affected severely and others will be less affected. But for sure, all sectors will be impacted. The impact will come to all sectors. During the industrial revolutions, there was always unskilled workers who we worry about. Now we have skilled and non-skilled workers. We mean that the doctor, the analyst, the lawyer, all these are in danger because of replacement of their daily routines into AI, artificial intelligence, and also robotics and Internet of Things, IoT. Therefore, doctors should be trained as well. This transformation will have impact on all jobs and professions. Also, the taxi drivers, we know, of course, that there is what we call the motors or vehicles without drivers. Auto cars, automobiles, they don't need a driver, so we don't need taxi drivers in this case. Those, they should be equipped with other skills. They should be reskilled. Therefore, they may lose their jobs. And other jobs that are in danger as well, that will be replaced due to technology and due to digital governments, is also for data entry. We don't need somebody who does data entry now. Everybody can enter data by himself. Also, other jobs that will be in danger are telephone jobs, tellers in banking, also the teller, for example. Today, all customers of banks can do the banking through applications on their own. You don't need a teller, or you don't have to visit the bank. Therefore, the cashiers as well in supermarkets. You go to the supermarket or to the mall, you can do everything as a customer, as a client, without a teller. These are in danger of losing their jobs. Some employees also need protection and they need support and to be re-skilled or what we call retrained. On this occasion, Dima, you talked about remote work and remote business, and there are some people, and many people as well, start working remotely online. There is also the hard work or the autonomous work, the independent work in different sectors. Also, we in the Arab region, are we ready for such change? And are the legislations and regulations ready to govern the work? Also, to protect the rights of the laborers, especially overseas?
Thanks for this question. Last year, at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, the Education for Employment Foundation focuses on training the young from different countries in the field of free work. The reason is that because there are no jobs, most jobs were for the tourism and the sales sectors, and these sectors were affected drastically by this pandemic. We have found that this section, is the entrepreneurs or the remote work or the independent work, is one of the most important factors that afford opportunities for the young people beyond their environment or their regions. There is a need for their qualification in a different way to work independently. It is a difficult job, by the way, that the young or male or female should run their daily life, and they should promote their product or the service they have in a different way, of course. This is a thing that they did not know. This is part of the training programs that we offered before. Also enabling them the skills of promoting their services and products. By looking at the legislations, we have found that because we are talking about the employments across borders, there is a difficulty arises in running this relationship between the employer or the contractor or the young male or female or the person who does this job or field job. This difficulty, by the way, constitutes a challenge for the legislation makers who should protect the employees and at the same time protect the employer as well. The employer should protect his business and organization and should have the product or the service in the best way, and he depends wholly on a person existed in another state or another country or another place, which is difficult for him to get the required service or the product service through legislation, by the way. This challenge is offered for the legislators. I think it is difficult to control this relationship and to look at it in a different way from the normal relation between the employer and the employee. We should be innovators in determining the conditions and the duties and the givings of this relationship. There is a desire for the governments also to refuse or support the private sector. And if we take the UAE as an example, there is a good encourage for the young people to start their steps in their entrepreneurs or startups in different sectors. Do you believe the trend towards supporting entrepreneurship for young and startups would contribute to alleviate and mitigate the pressures of the sectors and employees? Of course, definitely it will. Entrepreneurship constitutes a good solution for the national economies and employment and creating new employees or jobs instead of looking for the markets where the opportunities are minimized. Young people, male and females, can create their own opportunities through these entrepreneurs by looking at the startups also. And the experiment of the UAE, which is unique, by the way, we should not look only at the local resources, but we should attract the startups and the talents from all over the world, which is a good idea to attract the startups from all over the world, to attract also new sectors and the innovating the startups and the companies that create these jobs that refuse the local economy in the future. So attracting people and affording the new environment for the startups is very important, and qualifying the males and females, the youth, locally with talents and skills of entrepreneurship will not constitute an opportunity for creating jobs for them, but also will create a means to afford jobs for a lot of youth, young men and males and females. So we create opportunities and new jobs for others. Of course, we should also focus on the skills, the creative thinking and the critical thinking and problem solution to enable people create entrepreneurs, businesses, and unique businesses, and look for a future.
اللحظة
Till now, in this part of the world, in the Arab region, and other developing countries, don't you think that the skills that, such as critical thinking, problem-solving skills, the skills of the 21st century, in order to prepare us? So, what's the importance of our acquiring some of these skills, the soft skills? Is this an additional issue, or is an inseparable part of the future skills needed? Of course, soft skills are basic for jobs and for the work in the market and for life. These are life skills. We should care about life skills, and we should focus on life skills, such as we encounter the graduation of young university students who have academic knowledge. We have good universities in the Middle East, in MENA region, but we need soft skills, which are very important in order to enable them to find jobs. The man or woman, the graduate, cannot have an interview. They can't express themselves. They don't acquire the communication skills, good communication skills, or creative thinking skill. Even the skill of being an entrepreneur and to work in a company, you need the skill of being excellent at providing new ideas and innovations. This is really important. Soft skills are really very important. The lack or absence of soft skills is really dangerous in our region. It's something which is there, and we suffer from it, and it's a problem that needs to be solved. And there is also unemployment among the youth because of the lack or absence of soft skills in the MENA region, in the Middle East and North Africa. It's the highest percentage in the world, and we have unemployment among the world. Also, due to the no training on soft skills. Once they are graduated from the traditional schools or universities, they need to be prepared for the market, for the business market. They need technical skills, and they need soft skills to enable them to succeed and to maintain their jobs. Also, Dima, with regard to the training for the jobs and the projects that you have worked on, could you give us a sample or a model of the best practices that you have worked on as a good example to be followed? Or I believe the best practice, for example, is that we are always keen on raising awareness on it, which is the relationship between educational sector and the business center. This relationship between the employee and the employer is very important. We can't work in the educational sector in separation with the business or the needs of the market. From our experience in business and work and jobs, we have continued relationship with employers, with companies, to know the skills needed in the market and the jobs that emerge in their sectors, in order to prepare our youth with the best practices and skills and competences in order to be prepared to be involved in business and jobs. It is really very important for the companies to prepare these employees. The relationship is really excellent. Our organization, Training for Jobs, we have 3,000 shareholders or partners from employers in Africa. And I think that universities should take this into consideration. And such experiences by having relationships with chambers of commerce, chambers of industry, employers, and big companies to know which skills are needed for the market. in order to prepare our students for them, in line with the demands of the market.
Now I will offer a question. Our universities in general in the Arab world are no longer or have no longer able to answer the prosperity of the education sector, or will you see the top word is for the skills, and some of the countries like USA goes to this trend, started not to request an academic guide to employ them, but rather it looks for skills rather than that. I still encourage the universities who have a good position for employment. In some countries or in some cases, we read about stories in Silicon Valley, for example, in the USA, about persons who did not complete their tertiary education. And this person, one, two, or three, who have been graduated from the universities have an important position in graduating the qualifications and the qualified people. And the competition through the Coursera platforms, for example, which presents training programs, short training programs, relevant to the labor market and business market, and it's easy for every person to access them without need to stay 4 years in the university for getting this qualification. The challenge for the universities is to continue to graduate cadres with high qualification and having high behavioral and technical and soft skills also suitable for the labor work. So we should balance between the knowledge, academic knowledge, I think, and the requirements of the labor work or the business work. This, to be successful, the universities should develop their curricula very quickly, which is difficult sometimes for the universities. We estimate the difficulty for changing the curricula, and it is not easy, by the way, to happen in 1 or 2 days. This is a difficult job and complicated, so we estimate and know the difficulty of changing the curricula and developing them in a way that goes in line with the labor market or the business market. So this does not mean that we should minimize the efforts of the universities to afford the talents and the skills of the work that should be presented or can be presented through other additional programs. Therefore, universities are important, and development in presenting the curricula and the curriculum themselves and the programs that are offered by the universities and the training also that are presented by these universities for the young people, which we should focus on. I would like to move to talking about certain categories, like, for example, the women also, and the people of high determination also, who are existed in the context of labor market. If we talk about the woman first, how the woman is affected of what how the woman can be affected by what is going on in the labor market. The effect is due to the having a job in certain sectors which are unofficial. This leads to the ease of firing them out when the conditions are difficult for the companies where they work. There is a difficulty also for something like a pandemic and the technological development, and firing out a large number of people, particularly women, in the jobs for example, customer service, which is replaced by the electronic response. and the nature of the jobs that are taken by women are endangered also. There are no opportunities permanent. We should not look at the difference between we should not look at the empty part of the cup. The ability of remote work affords resources which were not afforded or available in the past. So ladies from home can learn a new profession and also can learn a new skill which were not found and acquired before. So they have new opportunities also through the educational platforms and receive certificates and grades that afford them good jobs. They have home business also by marketing it electronically. And this is also another opportunity for the woman can exploit and make use of. If we look at the Middle East and the North Africa, we have a big opportunity for the woman to enter the labor market. We also have the business sector where woman is less represented in the world. So when we look at a new industrial revolution and new skills and new talents, we can learn, and we find that there is a chance for the woman to explore them. So by looking at these challenges, we can find opportunities and continue to focus on qualifying women on the jobs in the future and the future skills and talents as well. The idea of a glass ceiling, which was not existed before in the job markets, do you see that this constitutes a problem with these changes, particularly in the technological and home sectors? The glass ceiling is still there. We cannot see, but it is there. It is one of the most important factors that helps such impediments and obstacles is the conventional and traditional shift of the woman and the perception of woman. And in the house, there are big duties that fall on the shoulders of the woman, which makes it not easy for the woman to work, by the way. If we need the woman to feel equity with man in the workplace, we also should encourage equity in the home jobs. We should make sure affording all the means that help a woman to do her job. For example, for example, by opening the remote education for schools, we have found that women has become responsible for educating her children because the working place is different from school. Suddenly, all the responsibility falls on the woman's shoulder, not the school, because all the children are learning from home. So it is a big and additional responsibility which was not existed before the pandemic, which contributed a lot, by the way, to retreat the woman's contribution to work remotely, and it minimizes her duties and functions to integrate in the remote control in her company or institution. Women are still have less positions. The numbers may be increase, but the leading positions are minimized, but the glass ceiling is still there, I think. For looking the opportunities that where the woman can find herself in the future, in your opinion, what are the sectors that the woman should look in the future to break the prototype picture? In the relationship, for example, in the employments that needs communication, and in the jobs that the woman can contribute a lot more than the man. What are the sectors we should look at as women in the future? Of course, the future jobs include learning digital languages, digital design, also digital marketing, also cyber security, and many other skills and many other jobs that the woman can be innovative in them. Conventionally, the woman, she said, cannot work like the engineers because this is a difficult job. It needs man. This is something from the past, which is no longer existed. By looking other conventional or unconventional skills and sectors, we can find women today can do any job done by the man. And most jobs do not need muscles and efforts to be paid by the woman, which was existed before. And it was a pretext for the woman that she cannot do that before. Today, she is able to communicate, for example. She has a strong will today, and the woman can be excellent in them. She can excel in these jobs. And she is able to identify the future trends and learn the skills that can help her to enter these trends or these future jobs.
Then we have the people with special needs, or do you think that you had some examples or experiences with people with special needs and the best practices for those with special needs of different disabilities? As a matter of fact, we are looking at the changes now, particularly with regard to remote work as an opportunity for those with special needs to work more in the market. Any person who has any disability or can really use this opportunity for working online or virtually. People with special needs can benefit from this. They need the infrastructure so that they can support and they can give 100% of their abilities. Today and now with remote business, I think these challenges have gone. Those with special needs can deal with from home. They can work from home and provide a lot. And as you know, and we talked about women who have the resolve, and those women with disabilities have ability to adapt and have ability for challenge and overcoming the challenges encountered. Also, it wasn't easy for them. Therefore, women with disabilities and men as well are really very important. They are human capital which is needed by the companies. And I think virtual online business is good for those with special needs that they will excel in such environments. Do you think that we need legislations and laws from the leadership so that we can change this quantum leap for those with special needs? Perhaps this will be a better solution. What do you think? Of course, we need legislations. They're available in order to assist and to gear the work and the business people. Policies always support to focus on the objectives of the countries and states. It will be for the future interest of the all sectors and states and companies. This needs legislation and policies which are important in order to encourage business sectors and to have percentages of those with special needs to have certain jobs, and women also to be as chairs in the as CEOs or in the board of trustees and chairpersons, and to encourage companies to take this into consideration, and the people with special needs can be really helpful, more than the companies expect. So it's a long-term process. Another question, final question by the audience. What about the approach that encourages long life learning and training? We always listen to this idiom or this, and it's always dealt with. What's the concept behind it of learning for life? And how can we benefit from learning for life concept or theme? Of course, one of the most important issues that we need to focus on is the skill of learning, or the skill of long life learning and self-learning during all life. Sometimes we're talking about the virtual life. We talk about blockchain, and we talk about assets, which are virtual assets, things that we are not aware of. We're talking about those people who have the skill of learning for life will be excellent, and they will learn about these concepts little by little. Then they will be able to master these theories and concepts and technologies for their jobs, and they will be able to succeed in the future. Future we can't see, but there are indicators for the future. But we can foretell the future. What we need to do is, and to confirm, and to know, is that we need to continue learning. We can't stop learning. For example, for the media person, the media representatives, he needs to learn how to create content from media, social media, in a different manner, which is something that could be a challenge for the media person. But when we learn this skill and we are able to deal with this content, then we will master it. That's it. We will be ready. We are in the future. However, but if we find that we are at a point where we cannot learn, then it will be the end. This is the importance of long life learning or continuous learning. Also, we need to know what we need to learn. How can we foretell the future? How can we know and identify the new skills that are needed for the market? We need to continue to search and learn such skills. Thank you very much indeed, Dima. Now we will move to some of the questions from the audience. There is a question about cost and benefits on economy and for supporting the laborers and to provide them with the support socially.
This man looks economically in his question, of course, by supporting the laborers, and the protection, as I said, has an economical saving. It emanates from two sides, which is social. When the laborers are protected in such a way, their jobs are protected also. This will contribute to the well-being of the society in general and supporting the national economy. On the other hand, by looking at the company, we should also look at the benefit of the business or the company. We talked about every individual. Every company should attract every skill and every talent which is costful, and saving training for the or affording training for the laborers should have a good chance, should afford a good chance for the communities, which is an economical benefit for the company itself. This thing, I think, reminds me of the big role that falls on the governments in supporting the private sectors by bridging the gap that might happen due to these changes. For example, in the UAE, and our followers also know, we have a good experiment, which is NAFIS, that supports the private sector and tries to bridge this gap and drive the young people to work in the private sector, which was considered difficult for them in the past. But nowadays it is a catalyst and encouraging for them. And the government also sectors also contribute in such a way to fill this loophole or this bridge the gap. There is another question. Under this picture for losing the employment, what is the mechanism of employing them or developing them? I mentioned and I talked about this topic earlier. I believe that the most important mechanism is to foresee and foretell the future for every sector, every industry and job, and identify the future trends as possible as could be. We do not know the future 10 years from now. And work to and learn continuously and identify the talents that are suitable for the future. For example, we give an example about the mechanic who needs to learn a talent for fixing the electrical engine. So every sector, every job has future trends that have become clear, but we only need to make sure of learning the skills and develop the talents in this sector. It came to my mind another subject. We have hundreds or millions of graduates from school to university. Most of them have options that are not good for the labor market and the business market. We need, for example, another session to talk about the schools and universities and business market. Is there a way through which we can develop the personal foresee for the students themselves? Thanks for this question. We often look at the universities and the vocational education and leave the school subject. It is very important to look at the educational system, the current educational system, and what happened in the Middle East and North Africa. We
look at MENA region, Middle East and North Africa region. We find that lots of workshops and factories, and we have workers who follow rules and regulations. Therefore, this worker or laborer does not have the skill of creative thinking or entrepreneurship, or the skill of thinking outside of the box, which we need today. These are skills of the 21st century. Thinking outside the box, critical thinking, innovation. These skills are needed. And we have to focus on such skills and not to focus on following regulations, directions, and rules and regulations and working hours. These are for the second industrial revolution, not for creativity in the fourth industrial revolution. Therefore, what about the coming generations? You, Dima, have experience. We will be dealing with a generation which is new, different generation, and has a different look of work and jobs and a balance between work and life. It will be a completely different generation, my generation and the generation before me. How can we be impacted by this generation, and how this digital generation be affected? This generation has the skill that we talked about, which is to learn continuously, learning for life. He has the ability, which is high skill in learning on technology, new idioms and technological terms. They are quick at learning and dealing or processing with of information. We need time to move from application to another or from screen to another. For the new generation, they are really savvy. They are great. They master this skill 100%. They are characterized. And it will be more difficult for business people, employers, for getting this young generation or the digital generation, because they are more aware about their rights and the balance between life and business, and also the psychological health, or there is a challenge for those who are recruiters, and we need to provide them with a suitable environment of work or business work. We need to benefit from their skills and their competencies, which are digital. And this age group is really very important. They have new ideas which we haven't witnessed before. The final question is, in this very important meeting, about the scholarships and how we can contribute in business and to meet such challenges. Of course, thank you for this question. I think this is an important question on scholarships. We have a shortage in the Middle East, in MENA region, in scholarships. They're not it's not available for everybody, and there is no abundance about scholarships. Therefore, it's a tool or a means to encourage and foster the students to be involved in majors and specializations for the future, which are beneficial for them and for their countries in certain sectors in the countries. Consequently, it's an important thing. We need to encourage scholarships, such as encouraging women to be involved in programs related to STEM, which is science, technology, math, and which is very important. It's not popular among women. So STEM is very important for women, science, technology, and math. We should encourage this among females and among women. And I'm sure that such a number of women in these fields will be increased. It's really very important. Therefore, so change is inevitable. The challenges are various. However, there is a lot. These are opportunities to serve us better. Now we are gearing towards the future with strength. We are talking about re-employing and skilling, upskilling, and we are also talking about training, about technology. We talked about academic studies is needed, but also skills and upskills is really also important. And also there is also a need for the adaptation where we have academic sectors to be in line with the demands of the market and the business. Also, we have to encourage the people with special needs and women. And the philosophy of continuous learning, where we can learn from all means. The most important issue, Dima, is that we have selections and options to be wise and to have wisdom to select what we learn and to deal with our companies and employers, and we are able to read and foretell the future and to know our professions and to look for styles and methods of well-being. Any other final message you would like to say? Thank you very much indeed, Safia, for this really interesting meeting. I would like to reiterate and confirm that future is now. We are living in the future. This is the future. The question is not what are the jobs that we will lose, or what we are to be, what we have to do with those who lose their jobs. How can we respond? Are we ready? How can we respond? What is the response? We should benefit from these opportunities. Therefore, the ability of benefiting from these opportunities, we can excel because of these opportunities. What we have to do is to benefit from this opportunity and to reiterate that we are ready. Thank you very much indeed, Dima Najim. Thank you for your interesting presentation. Thanks for the organizers, and thank you for those followers from all parts of the world.
شكرا.